What's up, everybody? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? We've got a special guest we're about to bring in. Very excited about this guest. LLOYD COURTNEY of Jordy Culotta Show will be joining us in just 1 second. LLOYD.
A perfect intro.
What's up, LLOYD?
How we doing, brother? Long time coming, huh?
We're both up in smoke, my brother. How are you doing, my man?
Excellent. Thank you for having me. I'm trying to mitigate my feelings as you caught me live streaming the LSU baseball game. As they look, we're figuring it out over here. YouTube still has it rolling. I'm not going to say who or what or when or how, but it's up. But LSU down 7-1. I was trying to live bet it right before we got on, but they won't put it up there. They're scared.
It's been tough with the LSU baseball games, actually being able to catch them. LLOYD,
That's a whole different conversation. We can do a different live stream about that.
I was gonna say, LLOYD, how have you thought about the LSU's baseball season so far?
Oh, dude, I'm all over it. We had a last year you could feel going from obviously the 2023 season. We started covering it like pretty heavily when I was working with Mic'd Up and still am. But in 2022 was the first year we started that show with Mikey Matuk, Jared Mitchell, and we really got indoctrinated in Jay's like first year. And now I've found myself in that somehow in that realm where Jay is okay with me. So I get to be a part of that, which is unbelievable. As somebody as serious as he is and takes baseball the way that he does in his career, that way he's like, oh, you're kind of the fun, like it's good balance apparently. So I've been riding that wave, and to cover it from 2022, where they go to a regional, they go to Oregon, I believe, and then 2023 season was electric. It was like had to win it, right? So I went to Omaha, what 2, 3, 4 times that year. I flew down with LSU legend John Peterson in his private plane. Like I went twice. Went for a bachelor party. Then I went again for the first game of the Ty Floyd game when he had 17 strikeouts. So I was all in it. And then fast forward to 2024, it didn't feel like they were as good as maybe people wanted them to be. And now you look at what this team is, and it feels very much in Jay's mold as they have the bases loaded. Ground out. That's all right. Scored a run, double play. That's okay. 7-2. Plenty of time. We're only in the third. But no, covering LSU baseball has been like that's my first love. That's the sport I played and I was actually kind of good at. And so I enjoy like covering it, being able to watch it, and having Mikey and Jared has been an unbelievable combination. And having the access with Jay and all the LSU baseball team, they couldn't be nicer about it. So it's been a blast to be able to have that kind of like second arm in terms of coverage. We do that show mic'd up Monday, Wednesday, 6 to 8, then Friday, 1 to 3. And then you could catch Mikey at any tailgate probably ever.
Oh, I love Mikey. I love the show. I love that you guys get Jay on there, and Jay is so casual with you guys. But he's casual. He's like business casual. Like the dude is always professional. He's always recruiting, and you guys fit in perfectly with him. You guys are baseball guys, and that's why he loves you guys, LLOYD. That's why he respects you, because you're a baseball guy.
Yeah, I think it took a while to warm him up, and it might have been some help from his wife Maureen. Like he opened you up. He's like, we got him quoting Tommy Boy on the show, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you had that in you. I was like, that's my guy. It's like not here so much, but right around here. And I was like, oh, so you've got a little stuff to you, and that's the Jay that people don't get the side of, I think, because he's so buttoned up in terms of how seriously he takes this job, and to see him kind of open up with us has been a godsend in terms of being able for people to see that side of him, and for us to have that access has been awesome. And the whole staff, to be honest.
Well, that's the thing is it's one thing to have the access, but it's another thing to actually cash in and really deliver some awesome, entertaining pieces of work. And that is a whole nother level in and of itself.
That's what you do. I said that's the blend. I mean, that's what you're able to capture. You're from what are you in Utah? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I think is more unbelievable than anything that we do over here. Like we're in Baton Rouge. We don't really like we should be covering it. You're on the West Coast in a different time zone. and you still have your finger on the pulse of what LSU baseball, football. You broke the hiring today of the defensive line coach. Like, to me, that's incredible to be able to be that up to date and have the sources that you do is mind blowing to me. Because if I wasn't here,
Man.
I don't know how you would do it.
Man, it's just love of LSU, man. It's just pure love of LSU, and it's tough living here where you're surrounded by people who just don't understand. Where it's like, yeah, there's BYU fans, there's Utah fans who love their team and stuff like that. They're diehard, but it's a whole different animal where LSU fans care about the recruiting, and not just that, but
It's 365, dude.
If the recruit gained 5 pounds, they want to know. And they'll pay for the information to know because they care that much. And I'm the same way when it comes to LSU, because I mean I subscribe to things as well. We love LSU, man. That's what it's all about, Lloyd, and that's why you're a kindred spirit. And I would say I'm not even close to dialed in with baseball. Like I will be honest with that and upfront.
How could you be though? Like you're doing you got your nose to the grindstone for LSU football, and that's what I'm saying when I say it's 365, dude. You could cover LSU football for 365 days a year and still come up with content. Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
what you're able to do.
especially in the Coach O era when there was a scandal
Oh,
every day. I actually am like thanking Brian Kelly because Chelsea was like, you're actually like taking kind of some time off. I didn't get a notification for your article for like 2 days. You actually took time off. What are you doing? What's going on? I'm like, there's nothing going on for once because
you
of
finally don't. Yeah,
like
all the leaks were plugged.
like
Like there was nothing coming out. The Ed Orgeron era, like I think everybody's of the same ilk of like, God bless it. You really can't hate it for like if you give me one national championship every 5 years, I think that's what makes LSU fans so special because we're not Alabama. We didn't have Nick Saban for the entire run, but if you treat us one time every now and again, it's like a bad marriage. But then when the anniversary comes, you're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
and
And
it's
now it begin. Then you're like, all right, if you do that every now and again, we'll stay together. And that's what LSU. That's what LSU football does. Like I wouldn't want it any other way, but that's because I have to have it this way. And Ed Orgeron was the chef's kiss of that of 2019, and then you get everything after that. You're like, well, I kind of saw this coming.
it was crazy, man. It was the fall of the Roman Empire in a way, just that quickly. It was nuts. I wanted to give you a shout out though, Lloyd, because you guys you've been a longtime producer and co-host of Jordy Culotta show, but what's crazy to me is now you guys have stepped into that role. Jordy has departed. What was that like, Lloyd, for you to get that news that Jordy was going to depart from the Jordy Culotta show, and like how what were your like kind of first thoughts, how you process that, but also, man, how have you done so well? How's there been such a seamless transition here?
And I have to give him like all of the credit in the world for. I listened to the interview that you did with him, and obviously, I guess he didn't like me at first. I had no clue because that's kind of who the person I am. Like I'm gonna be the same regardless. So I'll come in with my personality, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But we can still work together or be friends or whatever. But for him to give me the opportunity, because he mentioned that we worked together at Guarantee, and that's how I kind of got my start. Even before that, I worked in straight out of high school. Like this is what I was going to do. Like there's no other avenue for me other than like doing sports media and to be able to cover LSU. And this is the perfect honey hole for me to do LSU baseball, LSU football, and be able to do it year round. Like it's a dream job. And for him to be able to be in the spot he was, where he kind of saw whether he was forced to see it or not, he saw what this new media could be. Whether you see Pat McAfee on YouTube, where you see like all of this different content that you can put out. Levitard goes to YouTube, and that's where we were kindred spirits. Is we both loved the Levitard show because I was doing straight out of high school. I worked in Lafayette, God forbid. Now that there's a big animosity between the two, I worked for like ESPN 1420 there. Straight out of high school, I lived in my brother's fraternity house and did that 5 days a week, and that's how I cut my chops producing straight radio. And so I was always doing like radio, just audio production. And my like thought was like, well, if you're in charge of the buttons, that means you can probably make yourself talk. Like eventually I'll get to the point where like I'll open up my own microphone because nobody's there to stop me. And so that's what I was doing there and like started ingratiating myself and kind of like learning the ins and outs of it. Jordy has like he talked about it where he said like I reached out to him, which is totally true. My buddy Steele was like, "Hey, did you see what happened with Jordy?" I was like, "Yeah, I watch OTB every day." And the thing that caught my eye was like, nobody gets let go on a Thursday and not there on a Friday. Like, you wait. And so I was like, something's happening. I'm gonna put my like I'm gonna shoot my shot. And I was like, so on that like Thursday, I texted him, and on like that afternoon, he was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about doing this. Like, absolutely, I'll be there tomorrow." Quit my job as a jewelry salesman in Alexandria, where I had no business doing it. Like, was terrible at it. Loved, like, appreciate people hiring me. And this is all like in 2020. And so it was like trying to just find a job after I worked at Guarantee with Jordy, and I worked my way up from Guarantee. Like, I did traffic in the morning at 4:30 and would just put in spots like from WAFB. They would give me stuff to like, you have to put in a code, and that's how I learned kind of like Adobe Audition and Adobe Premiere Pro. Was just sitting there grinding and trying to figure this thing out. So I worked from the traffic in the morning to it was with Hannah Griff and Ott. So I got the call up to do that. And in between that, I would do the morning show that was just straight news. And I was like, I have no interest in politics. I don't know what y'all are talking about. But it was like a 4-hour show that we would do in the morning. And I was like, I'll talk. And so that's where I got kind of comfortable behind the microphone doing that. And this was all at Guarantee. And then one time, like Jordy mentioned it, he filled in with hanging with Hester as a coach, because it was Hester and Richard Dickinson most of the time. And Jordy filled in, and I had no clue he didn't like me, but bygones. But like, we started rolling. Like, exactly what he said happened is what happened. Like, the same thing that he has for like LSU sports, like there's a window for me where I can tell you anything. Like from 2005 to 2012, I can give you just about anything on LSU football. And so we fell into that like Hester era to transitioning to like what was going on with Tyrann Mathieu and all that stuff. And he was like, "Oh, you know what you're talking about." And I was like, "You know what you're talking about." And so obviously I make the call on Thursday, and he's like, "I'm starting this whole media thing." And I was like, "I'll come produce the audio. Like, I'll run the board for you." He's like, "Absolutely." Fast forward 2 days, and I'm running video, audio, and like a sycophant co-host of like trying to talk on the show. And I was like, "Okay, this is a lot right now." We're all doing it from a laptop in his basement. And I was like, "This is working." Like, kind of, it feels like we got something going here, but the production was terrible. We had no idea what to do with lighting. We didn't bring anybody in until we like figured out. I was like, "Dude, this looks terrible on YouTube." Like, all right, we have to figure out lighting. And we did all this like on the cuff. And it was the funnest ride you could ever have, when it was just pretty much me, Jordy, Rivers at the beginning, and then Noah was right after that. And he's been here since he was a freshman in college, and now he's graduated, and now he's hosting the show.
The first time I ever saw Noah was at a spring practice, and he's wearing his Jordy Culotta shirt
He's
with
a
Ronald,
unit.
and I'm just like, "Who's this dude?" And then later I see him talking on the show, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And now he's literally hosting, like lead hosting of the show in the couch. It's pretty crazy, and he's done a good job too. But I'm just wondering, was it like a surprise for you and Noah to get that news about Jordy leaving? Because it was
No,
a
we
shock
had
to me.
No, so it felt like it was a surprise to everybody, but we had obviously we have communication, like we talk every day, like before all this was happening, and we had kind of discussed like this transition, and you saw, which I think was genius on Jordy's part, and it kind of matriculated the way that it did, was like to have the 30-30-30 club. So Jordy would have to skate for work for like the last 30 minutes of the Colada show. And I was like,
Yes.
"Well, why don't we, like, me and Noah just do the last 30 minutes?" He's like, "That's perfect." So it kind of ingratiated the audience, like slowly without you thinking about it, that maybe these two can do it. And so people like kind of like came on board and would stay around from when Jordy left, because that's the hardest part. Like for me, like as a consumer of sports information, and like whenever I see Levitard not on, like, do I really want to watch it? Or if like Stu Gatz isn't there, do I want to watch it? And it's like it's an easy way to turn it off. And it's like, so we kind of slowly built it to where you would get used to just seeing us two. And so I think that slow burn has led to a lot of the success, to where neither one of us really have to worry about it. And there's Christian and whatever, he'll figure it out. But we're bringing on interns, and he's supposed to be the new like, at some point he'll figure out production, because from a producer's standpoint, I was so nervous about having somebody step in to do production that hasn't done it. And in that transition, bad producing leads to people not watching. Like, because I've been a bad producer before where you're trying to figure out, like, why don't we have internet? Where's the audio? It's like, it's a lot of things that go on. I didn't want to put that on his plate. But at some point, it'll be both Noah and I in those two chairs and on the Culotta Show set. But as of now, this is the easiest transition to do it. And us kind of, I guess, the blind leading the blind into this area of, hey, this is what you've kind of been ingratiated and used to it. And it's worked to this point. Like, it's been awesome to have not only the partnership with New Orleans Football, but to have Jordy kind of be so willing to hand over the reins and be like, dude, I trust y'all. And that was the biggest part to me.
It's big time from Jordy. That's why I said on the show to him, like, I don't think people realize how like selfless this is in the media world. Like, most people be like, nope, I'm taking my name off it. It's done. Like, goodbye. Like, shut this platform down. And instead, I think you guys have done a great job. You guys are still doing interviews with Chris Blair, with Wilson Alexander, all the regulars that you usually do the interviews with. And it's been fantastic. I haven't noticed a drip, like a dip at all. But I'm wondering, Lloyd, you have this persona that is just 100% high octane positivity, but like energy as well. There's kind of like a willing, like, fuck you type of optimism about you, a survivalism, like, fuck you, survival. It's a very Louisiana thing too. And what made you so fearless? Because you mentioned it just a bit ago about, stepping out behind the mic while doing the audio. And at first with Jordy Culotta show, people were wondering, is that working? Who's this guy talking? And it's like, it worked perfectly. It was such a huge central part of the show was that banter. What made you so fearless to step out behind the mic at first?
I think it's because I'm dumb. Like, I think it's just being absolutely being an idiot. Like, because people have talked to me even about this transition, like, oh, this is a huge change for you. Like, congratulations. Like, I haven't thought about it twice. And maybe it's because of the conversations I've had with Jordy and Noah. It's like, I was prepared for this. But it's
Exactly.
also it's like the blind kind of optimism of like, dude, it's just talking. Like, this is the way that I want the show to be, and the way that the show was been constructed, and it was Jordy's vision too, was what do you talk about with your friends around the couch? Like, if you have a couple pops and you're just chilling. Like, that's exactly what I wanted the show to be. It's a conversational show. I'm not trying to kowtow and have it taken. You have to listen to me. Call me an idiot, call me an idiot if you want. That's fine. Like, that happens to me all the time. I don't care. But I'm gonna get my take out there because I got one. I got to take on anything. But that's the way I've always viewed like a sports conversation, certainly around LSU. It's all I really know. Like, especially doing it now. Like, I used to be a little bit more well versed in the sports world, but now it's so hyper focused on LSU. It's like, why wouldn't I be confident talking about something that I know about? And it's not only that, it's the fact that, like, buddy, I'm just pitching the topic. Like, we can talk about it all you want. I could be wrong or I could be right. It doesn't matter. There's no hard line in the sand.
Exactly, and that's where it's very interesting, the banter back and forth of the
And
LSU.
cocaine.
They get they get very. I mean, you can say any type of take. There's always going to be someone who's coming at you red hot, pissed that you've taken any sort of opinion at all or didn't have one. There's times I didn't cover something, I didn't find it too significant. I'm only one person, kind of pick my battles. Oh, that I shouldn't cover that. Someone comes at me. What are you doing? Not cover. I mean, LSU fans are so diehard and so committed to this.
It's the best.
It's you like. There's times that I was complaining early days of doing this. Man, I'm getting this hate for this, man. And I remember, somebody, I can't remember who it was, if it was Chelsea or who it was, but someone I remember turning to me and be like, dude, if they hate you, that means they give a fuck. And that means you're hitting a nerve and just certain things that was like they are going so crazy about this because they care. And that's why we love LSU. That's why we love this fan base.
Oh, dude, I mean, I'm the biggest advocate for tiger droppings probably ever, and I'm probably the most hated person on that way. It might be me or you. I really don't know. It probably goes back and forth. But I remember when I first started doing the show, and I was like, I don't like I said, I'm dumb. So I wasn't checking for my name or anything. I was like, oh, dude, this is just fun. What a great, I can't believe I have this gig. This is what I wanted to do my entire life. And my brother, 2 days in, maybe after the first year, it's like, they fucking hate you. And I was like, What? I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, there's like a 6-page thread on Tiger Droppings. Like, who the fuck does this kid think he is? Like, talking. And I was like, I worked at Guarantee. I was on a bunch of shows.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I also like never thought to check. And I was like, dude, I don't care. It's like also bad brother. Like, why would you give me all the negativity? I was like, dude, you know what? And this is something that I've always had like the thought of when you do a daily show. Guess what? I'll be back tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. Like
And it's
nothing
like
you
a
can really do
revenge.
about it.
It's like a revenge. Because there's times I've made mistakes reporting things, and it's been a while. But
Oh, I
but
couldn't do what you do.
I got destroyed for doing it. You know, there was times where I'll be straight up honest. When I was first starting it, my mental health was not in a good place because of all the insanity around it, and the pressure of getting it right, that type of stuff. But man, when I finally like realized that like this isn't that big of a deal, like if you
I'm
get
gonna
it
live my
wrong,
life regardless.
because I remember seeing something of Bruce Feldman from like the early 2000s where he completely had this something just terribly wrong. And then I saw another one on Adam Schefter, a few of them, and it was almost laughable. They got that wrong. They got that wrong. Like historical context. Now that we see in hindsight, of course, it looks so stupid. But they were trying to cover a fluid situation, trying to be on top of it, and they made a mistake. You know, that's same type of stuff I've run into, and it's just funny, man. The Tiger dropping stuff. You said it. We might be tied. We might be tied, but you know
Yeah,
what? We can
this will
just go.
probably be on there.
We can just go like this.
I love them. But
And
fuck
you know
them.
what? If we were all hanging out at like a barbecue or a tailgate or something with all these people from Tiger Droppings, you and I both know, because I've been in these public, settings with these fans. The people who've hated me the most want to hang out with me the most in person. So it's always, it's never take it too personally, because you never know exactly where it's coming from.
And I get it from their perspective. Like I mean, I haven't really been in it because I've been working it for so long. But if I were in a job where I care so passionately about LSU the way that LSU fans do, that's part of it. Like, how could you get that wrong? Like, I know this. Like, how do you not know that? And you're covering the team. Like, they think that they should have the job. Like, buddy, I put myself in the spot to have the job. This wasn't lucky. Like, as much as you want to think it, maybe it was. Like, same thing with you. Like, you grinded to get to the spot where you are. Like, yes, I'm gonna break some stories. Yes, I might get some fluid context wrong. And it's like, but I'm gonna keep shooting and get
Absolutely.
to the point where at some point you're gonna have to rely on information and subscribe to LSU Odyssey if you want to, because I do. And that's where, like you already, like I said, you already broke the defensive line
Dude,
coaching
thank
hire. Like for people to, but that's what it is. In my mind, it's people that wish they were doing the job. Like I get it, because I would be the same way. At some point, I would have like I don't even have an account on Tiger Droppings. I'm just a long time lurker. I don't even know if I'm allowed to. But like I get it from that perspective of there's guys out there that know as much as you want to know about LSU football and they have takes, but they also don't have to go live
yeah.
5 days a week. And for me, it's 8 days a week. Like
You
it,
are
I'm
always
gonna get some things wrong. Like I'm gonna be talking, and at some point I'll get Connor Ware's name mixed up with Zach Cowan. It's going to happen. Like,
you
but
don't mix up names very much, if ever. Like it's freakish, man.
that's what I had Jordy to lean on. He could do that for me.
I don't
That was
even.
that he looked smart.
Jordy is the king of mixing up names, and I love it. It's part of
I
the
think that was
charm.
part of the retirement.
Yeah, maybe. I that was the thing. I mean, Jordy, I wish he wasn't gone from the space. I
Oh,
really
me,
love his
dude.
work.
As much as I like, and this is coming from a spot just because, like you said, like how were you prepared for it? You never really are
Yeah,
until like it happens, and then like the first like few days without him is like, damn, I do miss that fool. Like, because we would have some moments in that show where we would go nothing on the docket that we like planned to talk about, and we would go on a 30-minute tangent or a story from him
yes,
about living across the street from Michael Bonnet or like his college days. I'm like, we're kind of the same person, which is crazy that like we got there from him being like, I don't know if I trust him, to like, Jordy, I'm kind of you. Like in the sense of like we've lived a wild life, and now you get to the point, and so I consider him a very good friend, and so it's one of those things like when you walk in the first day, you're like, damn, he ain't coming back. Like he's still behind the scenes and doing that stuff, but like having him in the chair, the transition was as smooth as it could have been, but you forget how much content he provided just off the rip.
That's true. That's true. And you know,
Like his brain's crazy. Like because oh look, I'll give you behind the scenes of what we do or what we did with Jordy, and I continue to do it. And now it's like me and Noah are in the document together, but we would make a show document every night, and Jordy wouldn't even look at it. Like he would get like glance at some headlines and then just go. And I was like, this is crazy that you have this much information stored in your brain from somebody that I don't know if people consider him smart, but he's like got something in there where it's like a photographic memory where you can just recall and you're like, oh my God, how do you remember the 2007? Like I remember some of it, but not like he remembers down distance play. It's incredible. Like like that's why it's kind of a shame that he's not doing it anymore because that was his gift from God.
it really is, and it is a gift when you can kind of crystallize, especially when you're covering the moments, when you're writing it, when you're quoting, get people. You remember those details more than others because you literally were living it, like
Well, that's how
second
you know
by
he
second.
cared. He was a fan.
Exactly. And it's more than just even like, hey, maybe you watched the play once. Like when you're covering the thing, you have to watch the play like 10 fucking times. You have to get it exactly right, exactly in the sequence, especially the biggest plays, some historic moment in LSU history. You're, writing a replay of that play in your article, stuff like that. You can't get something wrong at all, especially the LSU fans. They will crucify you for getting those type of details wrong. It's,
And
and
that's the difference between like the written word and like the having a microphone.
oh
Like those are
God.
the oh, if like because I've done both. Like, and if people don't know, like I was a sports information. I worked in sports information at Northwestern State. They thought I'd covered sports. Like they thought I'd done the job before, and I was just doing it because they offered me money to go. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'm going to go pivot one more time to graduate school. And I was like, that's just buying me time to where I can smoke blunts on the couch again. Like we're doing the same thing all over, and that's exactly what we did. But they hired me, and they're like, oh, I thought you worked in sports information at LSU. I was like, no, I got fired and hired in the same day from LSU because they found my Facebook. And I was like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh my
But,
God.
so I worked for LSU Sports Information for probably 6 hours. And
Really?
then, yeah, and then they didn't even get to go to the office yet. It was over the weekend. They're like, I got a
Oh,
text. It was like, actually, and I was like, that makes a ton of sense now that I look at it. Like, I forgot that matters. And so I found my perfect home in YouTube to where none of it matters because it's just the personality that I have. Like, you're getting 100% of who I am. I'm not going to hide any of it. Like, I wouldn't be authentic if that's what I was doing.
I don't think someone could literally punch the smile from your face, dude. Like
Yeah.
you, like it is something I learned from you because I'm somebody who kind of has a resting bitch face without really noticing it. There's times I think I'm smiling that someone's like, "You look like you want to
Kurt,
kill somebody." You are just smiling nonstop. I love it, and it permeates this type of vibe that really it draws people into the show. I'm just gonna tell you that.
well, how could you have a bad time doing this?
Exactly.
Like even when there's times when we've been doing this with which I think is a great idea because it's slow season right now. If there's not an LSU hire or controversy that's happened, which that's thank God for Coach O because that was in spades. Like when you said you had something to write about every day, it was like, what are we doing here?
It'd be like
And it
every two
was
hours.
yeah, you could get a story every day up. And now the way that it's buttoned up, and the people that want to get rid of Scott Woodward are insane.
Oh,
He's only brought you what 3 or 4 national championships. If what women's basketball, LSU baseball, gymnastics, track. Like, I understand that Schaefer's been here forever, but he was still a part of that. Like, he didn't move him, and like, I don't get that conversation at all. But maybe I'm wrong. But
no,
that
no.
Ed Orgeron era, when you had everything to cover every day, it was something. And now where we are, and like we're in the middle of. Thank God LSU baseball is good. It's 9-5 in the fourth, and they got to run her on. Like they're going to come back and win this game, but
Hell yes.
like to like have LSU baseball as good as it is, so you have something to talk about. But this is slow season. Like LSU basketball, the men's team, and like that's what people want to harp on. Isn't good. You don't have March Madness. I get that. Like I was in Las Vegas for got detained, but was in Las Vegas for the LSU Maryland, like whatever he had Tremont Waters and Will Wade, and they went to the Sweet 16. Like I was in a sports book for that. Had to sneak back in Vegas to watch it. But like that's when content's great. You don't have that LSU basketball right now. You have LSU women's basketball, and that's awesome to cover because they're great. And Kim Mulkey's polarizing. But you also have to find ways to make content to get you to, like you promised 7 to 9. I want to get you to 7 to 9. Like that's my goal. That's my. I told you it'd give you something to do because I know these people are at work and they want to be able to eat up 2 hours, regardless if their boss knows it or not. That got you through the day, and that's my biggest like goal in life is to be, because I've been that person when I worked in like at the jewelry store. I was like, I'm trying to get as much LSU content and be entertained as long as I can to get me through whatever may be a mundane day. And so we've been doing like Sporticle and like all these Quizlets and all this different stuff, just to have people interact. Like it doesn't have to be that serious.
Dude, that is the biggest compliment. I'm literally like, I'll be literally at work myself, working security. I work security, so I have the time to do this, and I'm trying to get through the day as well. And
How many bodies you got?
What?
How many bodies?
And bodies? What do you mean? Oh, no, no guns, no guns. I'm unarmed, but
just straight hands.
it's a very chill job, very chill place. Trust me, like it is the most like uneventful, amazing job. But like,
Which leads you to listening to
it
content.
exactly, like there's so much, there's so many ways that I can just, I'm getting paid a wage to just basically be there, and at the same time, I can, try and do as much as possible for this thing that I'm doing here with LSU. Honestly, it's great. It's a great how it's worked out. But when someone tells me, dude, your article or your thing got me through the day at work, or man, post something, I need to get through it is like the greatest compliment, dude. And you just brought that. I'm sure you get it a ton from the Culotta show. It is the biggest freaking compliment. But what do you
It's
love?
it's
Sorry.
exactly what like it is what gets me like up in the morning because like I said, we've both been there and like to where it's like, oh, and like if I don't post the podcast early enough, like I do drive home to do it. Like
Yes.
it's like give me 30 minutes to get the podcast. So it's like, where's the pod? It's like, but I take that as a compliment. It's like, dude, I want to get it out. And like Noah does all of the clips and the social. I can't speak high enough about Noah. Like this thing wouldn't be working without him. Like Jordy touched on it, but we watched it literally a freshman in college work his way into being a host of a YouTube show that has, and he built the entire thing. Like every social, every subscriber on YouTube is all him because I deleted the channel.
Wow. I thought the social media was you.
No, that's what people
Wow.
think. No, that's all Noah. It would be way different if it was me.
Damn.
I
Noah.
keep my social to me. If you like, I'll pop in and pop out. It's the Kevin Durant theory of like I'm gonna get on, talk my shit, and log out.
Noah, my God, dude, you got some game. I mean, he is just like live tweeting nonstop like a freak. I mean, the dude is on top of
He's
everything.
coaching high school basketball and works for a roofing company. Like he's doing 4 jobs. I don't know how it works. I guess there's something to be. He's sober, so there's something to that. I guess.
What What do you love the most, Lloyd, about covering LSU?
I think we just hit on it. To be honest,
Is it
whether it
really?
be LSU or not, it's that exact thing because I glean a lot from like people love them or hate them or whatever. Like some of the barstool stuff that they do is what got me interested again in how to make more content. And it's the from Pardon My Take where people are like, I'm on the train and this gets me through my commute. I'm in my office and this is what I listen to. Like, like you said, that's the biggest compliment I could ever get. As like I'm choosing you, like or choosing this content over there's a million assets, there's a million options. And they want like they'll pick this one, which that's so if I feel like we do a bad show and it happens where me and Noah or me and Jordy would look at it and be like, not our best but it's a daily show and it happens. But guess what? We're going to do it again tomorrow. But it's the fact that people continue to look for the content, find the content, and want it. Like, I couldn't be more like humble about it. Like, it's such a compliment to I guess, like what we're doing as a show, but it's something that I've always wanted to be able to have because I know that feeling of looking for something to listen to and be like, where is it? Why is it not up yet? And so I understand it. And to be one of those like options, even that is a compliment in itself. So that's like, that's why I do it every day.
Lloyd, what is the like? People kind of have a vision of you, kind of this is how Lloyd is. What is the thing in your life, kind of like maybe adversity that you overcame, but something that was maybe would surprise everybody listening, watching about you?
Um, I guess I the whole way here, like I I've done other jobs. Like I said, like I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods,
Yeah.
and I got the call whenever I said I worked for like Guarantee, and I got the call on Black Friday, like the on so it was Thursday, and I got the call that night to go like, hey, we want you to produce the news show that they had there, or like I think it was 100.7 or something like that. But it was a massive, like 4 hours, needed a guy to do it. If you do this, you'll be doing more stuff. And for those that don't know, Black Friday is a big deal for the sporting goods, any mall, anything, whatever.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
we need all hands on deck. And I had to make this phone call to the guy. I'd be like, I'm quitting. Like I don't have a choice. Like, do I want to be the general manager at Dick's for the rest of my life, or do I want to pursue a career in what I think I'm good at and what I enjoy? And I had to make that phone call and talk about getting reamed out. He's like, you know what a 2 weeks notice is? Like, do you know what, like, I didn't have that?
They don't give
And
us a
so,
2 week notice when they fire us.
right. And that exactly. And I had no ill, it wasn't going to be contentious at any point, but I understand where he's coming from because they need all hands on deck. But that's that was a life decision at that moment for me where I was like,
Absolutely.
I have to make a call if I'm going to, and I have no problem doing that. Like, I'll face you head on, I'll call you, I'll meet you face to face and be like, look, I'm not going to be there. But that was probably the moment of me where I was like, all right, if you really want to do this, where you could probably have a normal career working at Dick's Sporting Goods and make whatever that salary is, and I could have dominated that place, like whatever. Or I can start basically at the bottom of what I think radio is in terms of like you want to be there at 3:30 in the morning and be there till 9 and then do another show from 11 to 1, then another show from 3 to 6. Like, yeah, I do. And so that's where I made the call of like a stable, like very much normal life versus this, where it's every day is something new. Like you're joining a YouTube channel, like you don't know how it's going to go, but just making that leap in terms of like, this is what I want to do. I don't know what else out like, and even now, it's never been more cemented into like, what the fuck else would I do? Like if you gave me another job opportunity, like I don't want to do that. And so that's like it might be bullheaded, it might be like almost ignorant, but I've worked other jobs, didn't like them, love this one. So I'm gonna keep doing that one.
Dude, if I was in Baton Rouge, I wouldn't be working security. That's for sure. I would literally be like
Well, that's a testament to you, dude.
sleeping under
Like
the
to
bench
do
out there
both.
at LSU hops.
But that's it. Like what I'm saying, that's a testament to you to how much you want to do this job. Like, all right, if it's
That's
like
true.
whatever I got to do, you have a family. I don't.
That's
So like you're like, I still have to make decisions to provide money even on the back end just to be stable. And then like I'm still gonna do this though. Like you don't have to do it. You'd be just fine having another job.
that's the thing, man.
It's passion.
Is if Sage wasn't here, my 2-year-old son Chelsea would likely be just like, keep going, just keep going, just keep going, just keep gambling, just keep risking this, just keep going. We've got money, just keep going. Like it was just literally Sage is coming. I have a security license. I was like, I got to go back in and do security. But I'm with this
That's
job.
life.
They're so flexible with me that they have let me go on trips to Louisiana. I can't even count how many times they've let me go to Atlanta, Vegas. The list goes on. So I mean, they've been amazing to me. So I cannot complain. It's just the situation what it is. But man, I cannot wait to get down there. And that's what I'm so glad about what you're doing, Lloyd, is that you are down there. You're in the thick of it. but you're taking advantage of these opportunities and you are outworking the competition. You know, whatever people want to say about you right now, Mr. Lloyd, it doesn't mean shit because you're going to outwork them in the end, in my opinion. That stuff matters. These details, the passion, being obsessed with this, being able to really commit everything to it, put it all on the line. I had a question asking you, was there a crossroads moment? I had a question asking you a few of these things. You've answered so many of these things. Just
bro, look, this is where we started. Look, I don't know, like this is how the whiteboard began. Like this is on my refrigerator.
oh hell yes.
Like this
Hell
is
yeah.
like this is the impetus of like every day grinding. Like I didn't have a whiteboard. I was like, well, fuck, I know a magic marker works on a refrigerator. And so that's like I outlined everything that we wanted to do for how do we do daily shows? How do we do like YouTube posts? Like what drives the meter on what people want to see and when we should post it? Like that's all like that's the big board right there.
Hell yes.
And everything that I've ever thought of for content of like how do I start a and this is from that's from like 2020 and it always adds stuff, erase stuff. Like we've knocked this goal out. Let's get to the next one. And then you start, it's ever evolving, but that's the grind of it, brother.
And I love it. I love it. The spontaneous, it's just the spontaneity, the vibe of it. And I know people wanted to say, oh, the production of Jordy Culotta show at the beginning wasn't so good or whatever. I don't agree with that. I love the do-it-yourself production. And I know people will rip on the production we have. We're literally doing this in a small apartment, just kind of just really at the seat of our pants because that is the reality of it. We're going to be as authentic as possible. When we're in a studio, straight laced, we will be all that. But for now,
Oh, never.
we're gonna enjoy this. Lloyd, I want to ask you some questions real quick just to end the show about this 2025 season. This squad, this LSU's 2025 squad. They have a lot of expectations to deliver in this season, and there's a lot of
Oh,
pressure.
buddy.
Even
This
though
ain't gonna
we've
end the
lost,
show. This is gonna be a long conversation.
we've lost a lot for this roster, in the NFL draft and a few some depth in the portal. But man, where on this roster are you most excited about? But where are also the concerns for you about this team?
I guess excited is the easy answer. Nuss coming back. Like I feel like that's the biggest coup that LSU could have gotten. Shout out Cordell Music, by the way. He does some music for the Culotta show. We need more. Send as many tracks as you got. Send them all.
We
Because
love
that
you,
dude's a
Cordell.
talented fucking rapper, and he's got great production. So haven't seen him like great to see him again. I know the dude's super busy. He does another guy that has multiple jobs but chases a passion. I love Cordell, but the easy
We
answer
love
for
you.
LSU 2025 is, I mean, it has to be Nuss, right? Like it feels like you have everything goes according to plan. Probably what top 3 pick.
I mean, he's right up there. He's got the talent to really be the best
And
quarterback in the country.
people hate on him.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, he was the best player on the team. And I understand some of the sack numbers and hit numbers were actually pretty low for Nuss, but it seemed like every time he was hit, every time he was sacked, it was like the most vicious, most open season can of whoop ass on Nuss. And he'd be limping. He'd be like, oh, like, there was moments where it was like, shit, Northwestern State or Nichols State. That's what it was. Nichols almost knocked him out of the game. It was freaky. I mean, it seemed like Nuss took a lot of shots, even with that offensive line. Now we lose 4 out of the 5 starters from that O line. Are you concerned about the O line in this season for Nuss?
So it's hard to. I'm cautiously optimistic, right? Like you bring in. So I guess the bigger picture of this entire conversation is Brian Kelly, right? Like he made the plea of we need more money. He donates his own money, and it's like we have to be. So let me reset. It goes from we have to recruit it, right? Like we're not interested in the portal, and he wants to recruit Louisiana top end talent, and you don't see the actual what NIL is trending to because we said it on the show. You can go back if you want to and find the episodes. It was like what's stopping people from doing this to high school kids?
Yeah.
Like what? Why would you not have the foresight to be able to think that if it's happening to freshmen in college, Why would they not? There's no law stopping you. They're 18 or whatever you want to say. Like, you can sign a contract at whatever age. Justin Bieber was 7, and that didn't work out great for him considering who he did business with. But like that, but that's the world you live in, where it's like it's an open season on talent. And for LSU to think like, oh, we'll just do this relationship based thing, and I think they did it right to an extent of what he brought in after the people, like what he got and gleaned from, I would say, Scott Woodward, from Frank Wilson, to bring back a lot of the guys that he had in the building that he let go. And to have to double down on that and be like, no, we should bring him back. Like, my biggest thing with BK is how he came in here. He's like, I'm going to do it like Notre Dame. And it's like, you have no pulse of what's here. And that was a tough, like, transition period for him because it didn't work. And then you bring in Robert Steeples and you bring in, like, some of these are good coaches, but the Matt House thing is obvious. Like, he's had to recorrect and redo the ship in a different direction 3 times now. And so now he went from recruiting, or like his way to do it, where you couldn't even get a special team snap down, to now that you have all LSU people, everybody that has connections to Louisiana, to we're all in on recruiting. Then you have the Bryce Underwood situation happen. And it's like, okay, how much can we put stock into this? And now it's, we're all transfer portal. So he's out of chess moves. Like, at some point you have to look at it and go, whose fault is this? Like, if you're not going to be competitive and be able to get to a college football playoff, which is set up for you to be able to be in, that's my biggest concern, is how interested he is in the job.
Dude, that's the thing, is people, there's a lot of people who are just pro Kelly no matter what happens. And I almost feel like, when have we ever heard of anyone having like almost a God-given right to like 5 to 10 years to just to win a championship, to prove they win a championship?
And Matt McMahon gets no time.
I've never heard of anyone having that much time at LSU or anywhere. Like, hey, you're going to get 5 years just to see if you can do, like, to me, he has to be competing for a national championship right on the doorsteps with this team. I don't care who we've lost. The coaching staff we have, the weapons we have, we can overcome the loss of the offensive lineman by just having a quick firing passing game. We have so many weapons to make that happen. And just giving the football to Caden Durham as well, let him work. But this should be a team that should be competing for a national championship. You have likely the best quarterback in the country.
Yeah, like, I agree. Like, you have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Like, name another. Like, people are going to say Arch, and it's like, has he done it? The last time I saw him play, he got concussed. He ran one play and got knocked out because he hadn't been playing in the SEC. Nuss was against Oklahoma, gets knocked out of the game, and you're going, this is a loss. And he comes back from the tunnel, and you're like, oh, we're back. Like, needed every second of you.
Absolutely. I mean, any hatred towards Nuss, I understand. He made some bad plays. He probably lost some games.
He had a bad 3-game stretch.
Yes, the 7 turnovers of that 3 games likely lost LSU games over that stretch. Who did he have to work with? Like, it was just so against Nussmeier.
First year offensive coordinator in the SEC.
Yeah.
Freshman running back. Like, offensive line, we have a freshman center. People don't talk about what DJ Chester had to go through and what Nuss had to go through. And that's why and you can even extend it to left tackle, right tackle, of working with the new center. Like, all of that stuff, that compounds errors because they've never worked together. And so it wasn't as, and maybe this is the media's fault. We're like, you have the best offensive line in the country. And you're like, well, you know, on paper, you do believe that some of the, like, you have a great left tackle in Will Campbell, and you have a great right tackle in Emory Jones, and you should believe that. But that doesn't necessarily translate to being able to run the football. We don't know. And then you saw it wasn't as good as you wanted it to be. But then you get Emory goes down in game 1 or 2, where it's like a massive blow to, like, at least the continuity of the room. But my bigger takeaway of all of it is, like, at some point BK is going to run out of people to, I don't want to say it as crass as this sounds, but people to blame, where it's like, at some point the buck stops with you. You're the $100 million man, and now you're like, if you really take a step back and you're not an LSU fan, or if you don't cover the program, would you not see that as a sign of weakness of a coach that's like, I'll give $1 million to help the roster? Like, you should.
I mean, it's definitely it speaks to there's the money at LSU. You know that LSU is rolling in the money. It just seems, is there
Well,
maybe
that's the other part of it. And not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but like then you're begging the fans to donate.
that I cannot stand when you're already having ticket taxes and all this stuff. And LSU fans give so much, man. They donate so much money; it's ridiculous to the university. And I think the blind love for just LSU needs to kind of be set to the side and say, hey, are are we being taken advantage of financially in some of these regards by a near $1 billion institution? Like, let's kind of be real about some things here. But we love LSU, but at the same time, don't take
Yeah,
advantage of
that's
the
where
fan.
I'm at. Like I donate and I'll take I'll take it on the chin if I have to because I don't want the Bryce Underwood situation to happen again, but that's one
No,
that's like an outlier. Like there's no $15 million man here. But
no, that
I
is
do think there's a bunch of fans that probably sit on the fence that are going to go because we know how the LSU fan base is. We talked about it earlier, where it's okay if they feel like they donated money, their opinion is going to feel like valued a little bit higher.
yeah, that's true.
I paid for this.
That's true, and you've seen it. They'll be the loudest ones, and quite rightfully so. It's just everyone's gonna have an opinion with this squad coming up. There's so many different ways, so many different directions this team could go in this year. This team could literally be competing for a national championship on the doorstep of actually making it happen in the Brian Kelly era. Or you're a few injuries away in some key areas. You're so thin at D line. You're so
With the new D line
reliant.
coach at a bad time.
Yeah, and you're so reliant on transfer guys, unfamiliarity pieces at safety, at the edge position, on the offensive line now. It's oh man, this
Well,
team could go in so many different directions, man.
and what's crazy is that LSU fans have done this again, where it's set up so positively, like the best transfer portal class in the country,
Yeah,
and then you see them. So whatever happens against Clemson week 1 at Clemson, you're gonna go 0 for 4. You already banged on the desk. You already did the thing.
man, that's the thing. I was
But
literally
but it also that loss didn't matter.
that's what that was the weirdest thing is if we don't lose to what was it 4-5 Florida and we don't lose to an under 500 USC team, we could have been in the college football playoff. Lloyd, that's a joke. That is like how we don't think of this last year as a missed opportunity. We didn't really think of this last year's team that highly, I guess, in consensus,
Well, it
but
just
in
wasn't as
reality,
it wasn't as electric as Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas.
of course not. But I
You're
mean,
like,
you
but
beat
we're
four
giving
and
up
five.
50 a game.
Of course not. But you beat 4-5 Florida with a freshman injured quarterback, DJ Lagway, and if you beat USC like you should have, you're in the college football playoff. That is just insane to me. So you're right. I mean, there's been some big missed opportunities by Brian Kelly.
It was the
He,
A&M loss that stunk.
oh my God, not even having a plan for Marcel Reed. But you know what? I gotta say, right there with Blake Baker, I had no clue about Marcel Reed either. So, um, you know, he
Same.
had me there. Man, it was crazy. This season, Lloyd, it really is all up in the air for Brian Kelly because it's boom or bust. I don't think there's any middling. Hey, another season where we're building towards the goal. It's going to be 4 years of building. This is LSU. Like we win a title every 3 years now at this point. Like what is going on here? We get to that cusp every 3 years. You've had a Heisman winner. You had the greatest offense outside of Joe Burrow's offense in college football history with Jaden Daniels, Malik, and Brian Thomas, and you couldn't cash in on a team that just needed.
And yeah, you get a fucking morning bowl game.
Yeah, if we had just had a defense that gave them an extra possession a game,
No, Jay Daniels turns it over once he gets Ole Miss, it's game over.
I know it was nuts, man. It's all about this season for me is running the football, just very simple
Super
detail.
excited about Harlan Berry.
Ooh, you
And
know
Caleb Jackson.
Caleb Jackson is going to be due for a big bounce back year. I mean, I don't know
Interested
why.
to see what he does after the spring situation. Just to see. I'm just saying there's one more portal opportunity. I don't want him to leave, but
There's talk
you
that he
bring
can't.
in you bring in Lindsey, you bring in Harlan Berry, you have Caden Durham. Like 4 backs is a lot. That's a Frank Wilson special. That's what he does. Is brings in a ton of running backs. There's never really one feature back unless you got Leonard or Darius Geis.
Well, I think you've seen with the best rushing attacks at LSU, it's always there is that guy. And sometimes maybe not, but there usually is that one guy over the other one. There's usually maybe 2-star running backs, but there's one who's kind of more the preeminent figure. Caden Durham's that guy, and I just think he's going to make up for a lot of the deficiencies with that offensive line. Nussmeier's arm, hopefully the quick firing passing game can do that, but man, we've got a lot of weapons on this offense.
Cool.
We've got some great defensive players here. Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins returns, Tamarcus Cooley.
How cool was that Perkins is coming back? I don't care what position he plays. It's just awesome to have him back.
It made sense. It felt like there was no way he would be able to go to the NFL draft injured. He's not going to be able to do the combine. It just wouldn't have made sense.
Well, if he gets hurt week 1 and he's able to do the combine, he probably goes.
Oof.
Man, that 4.3.
That would another Mason Smith-esque injury. Ooh, man.
That's what it felt like. That was the conversation. I'm so glad he's back, and that's what makes NIL great. Is like that. I'm sure that had a factor in it. Of like you'll be made whole on this side, and you'll be able to. They have to get over whatever this this discourse of we're going to play this position, but we want to play this position for the NFL. It's like at some point, Harold.
Man. I couldn't stand that shit, man.
You just be dominant at what you do, and I'm excited to see him at Star. I don't want to see him if he's able to be like 215, 220 and run the way that he does and be outside in space. Like I'm excited to see him play that position because I view him as if they fuck this one up again with him for 4 years, or I guess 3 years, like he should have just played running back.
Seriously. I mean, you're making a damn good point there.
Because he was elite.
I mean, this is a dude who, even the star position, theoretically, if you could scheme this also in another wrong way where he's in coverage too much because, he's out there in space. He's kind of not an edge guy. He's not quite a linebacker. He's not quite a DB. He's kind of in that
They're bubble screening him to death and he can't rush.
If you just motion a guy over there every time, make sure he's in coverage, we're going to need someone to come down and take that responsibility to free him up to be able to attack the line of scrimmage. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do with this defense, man.
Especially with the defensive line, you got to have Dom McKinley be dominant.
Yes. Dominant McKinley.
There's your next headline.
Dominant McKinley. I told him that nickname, and he was like, "I love that, man." So Dom is already himself a fan of that nickname.
Lloyd, he came on. Like
we
saw him in whenever we went to early practices before the year, you could see that he was still a young he was growing into being able to what they wanted to do. Like he was getting coached up hard, and it was like you take too many plays off, and he knew that. And it became, then you saw you have to give this effort 3 downs in a row if you want to play here. And the person that's opposite of that is Gabe Rilliford. He's a star. He's going to be an absolute stud.
I'm so glad you mentioned him. I was literally going to ask you, Lloyd, who are the guys you're going to be most paying attention to in spring? You're already answering it for me. This is so, I've literally crossed these questions off as you've been going, Lloyd. Gabe Rilliford, man, I'm so excited you brought him up, Lloyd, because, dude, I think that guy's electric. Maybe only 4 or 5 sacks this year. I think you're going to see the potential and the flash. It's just there's going to be a huge fight for playing time at those edge spots, man. It's going to be a war there and receiver.
Oh, dude, yeah. Both those two are going to see, and probably going to be a point of contention at some point where it's why isn't he in? The other person I'm excited to see, and God forbid we have this conversation again, Chris Hilton, if he can stay healthy. You saw what he unlocks in us. He's played in 2 bowl games, and it's a totally different offense.
Yeah, I mean, even the first bowl game he played in, where he caught an 81-yard touchdown
a 98-yard touchdown drive.
He throws an John Trey Kirkland throws an 81-yard bomb against Kansas State. Chris
With
Hilton,
BK in the booth.
Chris Hilton was a freshman and he hadn't even been playing all year. He comes in and catches. It was ridiculous. Man, Chris Hilton Jr. I just wrote a profile on him. Man, I think that could be a 12, 13 touchdown dude with the weapons we have, taking away that attention, giving him that space. He doesn't even have to play every snap. We can keep
Do you
him
think that
fresh.
people think of him like that outside of like maybe us that play, that pay like a good bit of attention to it, just because the narrative around him is not great. Like
No.
considering what happened last year, where it was like, is he going to play or not? Clearly, he wasn't healthy, and then he showed that he was. But do people realize that the amount of talent that he has? Like he could be a
Oh,
first round pick.
and when you've got that many weapons that have to take up the
Aaron
attention,
Anderson.
yeah, you simply must guard Aaron Anderson. You simply must guard Nick Anderson. You simply must cover Barry Brown. You have to account for Trey'Dez Green.
Xavier Thomas.
Like you have to account for Xavier Thomas, Kyle Parker, who took over Chris Hilton's starting job in Week 1 last. It is ridiculous. You have those type of weapons, man. You saw the touch that Nuss has throwing that deep ball. Chris Hilton wasn't even close to 100%.
Trey'Dez Green.
Yeah. They have to account for Trey'Dez Green, like I just brought him up just a second ago. I mean, it's ridiculous. And Donovan Green, too. Another
Bauer Sharp.
Yeah, Bauer Sharp.
They have unlimited weapons. They really do.
This is a team, man, that
it's kind of on Sloan.
It's on Sloan to take that next step. It's on Cortez Hankton to take that next step, both together. It's on Brian Kelly to really this is not a moment to sit back and play golf. This is a season to put your nose to the fucking grindstone and work, because that's what it's going to be expected of all of his players. And if they see a coach who isn't in the foxhole with them, maybe there's that.
I'm tired of talking about being elite. I'm ready to be elite.
Yeah. And I love Brian Kelly. I want to see him succeed, but at the same time, like
I want to see LSU succeed.
You can't get 5-6 years at LSU.
What coach would you compare him to at this point that's been at LSU? Les had one at 3. Saban had one at 3. Ed had one at 3.
I don't know, because there's never been a coach that's come in without.
It hasn't been bad.
No.
But you weren't afforded the opportunity to have a college football playoff.
Exactly, and that's the thing is, I think there's 2 years right here, the last 2 years, where, yeah, maybe LSU weren't that good, but on defense,
they were.
On defense, we weren't good in 2023. Last year, we were, hot and cold, but the whole conference, the entire of the SEC, the entire college football landscape was so weak these last 2 years. The fact that LSU did not take advantage of that weakness when we have NFL players and actually go in there and compete for a championship is it's sad.
Last year was the quintessential year where LSU sneaks up and wins one.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting beat. Everybody's losing all over the place. And you win a couple of games and you're right there. And it's like, hell, LSU went through the SEC with 2 losses, put them in.
Yeah.
And you lost that for, at least for last year. But that's my kind of biggest takeaway, because when you start looking around, like last year, I don't know how often that's going to happen where everybody kind of beats everybody.
No.
Like Florida's back. Florida's going to be good with DJ Lagway. They held on to Billy Napier, which I thought was the right move in terms of like, why do we reset this thing every 2 years? And if you're BK, you have to look around and go, I don't know one constant here aside from what, Lane Kiffin?
Yeah. I mean,
like I've had the job the longest time in the SEC, and I have a quarterback that's coming back. I've spent the most money. It's very well known in the transfer portal. You're doing the Ohio State method. If it doesn't work again, I don't think he'll get fired, but it also, the noise around him is going to be like, buddy, especially with the attitude that he has, it has to, like, you have to ingratiate yourself to the people at some point, or you're going to get, see you.
That's like, the thing, man.
It's almost like Derek Carr.
Wow, and Derek Carr, man, that's a dude who.
Well, I'm just talking about like the perception of it. Like, you don't want to be a part of what we are. Like, that's the biggest thing you can do in Louisiana. Is like, you had like Jameis Winston's still in New Orleans. He doesn't even have a job.
Exactly.
But people,
They love him. He's a man of the people.
They love Edo. If he came back, he wanted to be the defensive line coach.
Exactly. Like,
That would have been awesome.
I think the coolest thing Brian Kelly could seriously have done is call a press conference, walk up there with aviators and a cigar, and just be like, "Yeah, I fucking hired Coach O. What are you gonna do about it?"
Yeah,
Like that would
and
have
I'll let him talk. Bring him up.
it would have showed that he had no fear,
I'm all in.
no ego games. Like, I'm willing to let the former coach who won a championship here before me, the guy I'm kind of following in the footsteps, I'm going to let him come back and call the shots under me. Like, I just, obviously it was not going to be realistic. Coach O is probably
No,
not.
it's not realistic at all, but it's awesome.
He's not in the
Like,
frame
it's
of mind.
TigerDroppingsFodder.com. Like, that's that in the what Kyle Williams. Like,
oh my God,
it's not going to happen, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Kyle Williams, man, that would have been so sick. Lloyd, I'll let you get back to your baseball, but man, we should do more of these. Are you down?
Yeah, dude, let me know. Every Tuesday, Thursday, I got mic'd up, like I said, 6 to 8, Monday, Wednesday. Tuesday, Thursdays, my nights are free.
Let's do it, brother. Lloyd Courtney of Jordy Culotta Show. Watch them every morning, 7 a.m. Right? 7 a.m. Central?
7 to 9.
7 to 9.
That's our promise to the people.
Check them out on YouTube, everybody. And we'll have the links to that show right down below so you can easily subscribe. Check out Jordy Culotta Show with Lloyd.
And check out
Noah.
LSU Odyssey. It's not expensive. You get breaking news. Like, well, don't everybody do it, because I kind of glean off of him a little bit. Whenever I have a take, I'm like, oh, I read this on somebody that has some sources. Like, we've gone back and forth about, okay, where are we going here? And so subscribe to LSU Odyssey, because you will get good information as opposed to trying to get your information maybe off of a board or such. But you're doing a great job as well, sir.
We try our best, Lloyd. Lloyd Courtney, everybody, the man, the myth, the legend, the Hunter S. Thompson of LSU football media, the man himself. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful night.
Go Tigers.
Absolutely. What am I thinking? Go